There we go. So hopefully you're now seeing a big title slide and you're not seeing my notes. Is that right? Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, thankfully my lovely co-organizers and have shared an image in the chat. So that is a bingo card that we're going to use at the end. So what I suggest you do is open that image in Paint or Preview or something like that, and then get up the markup tool so you can put a cross in the bingo card as you hear the bad needs as I read them out at the end. So that way you can kind of cross them off and hopefully you get a bingo. So hopefully that makes sense. I shall now proceed. So in the session, I'm going to share some thoughts on issues I've found with user needs, and I'll outline some suggestions on how they could be addressed. And we play the bad user needs bingo at the end to see what you can spot the bad needs amongst the good ones. So tonight's theme is about scaling user research. Well, I thought I'd give you a bit of context that sort of posits this in the theme of the evening. Most large organizations have lots of previous research, and it's often hard and challenging, time consuming to find and challenging to make sense of. This results in teams and senior stakeholders unable to make use of this knowledge and project teams duplicating previous work. I've been recently working on this very problem at DEFRA, and I've analysed previous research from 11 projects to try and create a cross-project understanding. And then I share the outputs so we can build on the past work and not repeat it. And that's both at a strategic level and at a tactical level. So strategic would be the people in the roadmap team, the enterprise architects, senior stakeholders. The tactical would be the project teams who are like building services. As part of that work, I synthesized 422 user needs from 11 projects into 89 epic or higher level user needs. In the process of doing that, I've seen common issues with how the user needs have been written. And this is because they are actually quite hard to get right. You know, take it easy on yourself if you've been writing user needs, they aren't easy. And many of the mistakes I've seen in this, on the user needs, I looked at the 422, I've made those mistakes myself in the past. So part of the problem is where user needs come from. So they're borrowed from the title of an agile user story, and it's just a simple three-part statement. As a user type, I need X so that I can Y. So a lot of you should be familiar with this. But it's important to emphasize that user needs are not synonymous with agile user stories. Because their structure has been derived from the syntax of user stories, it's understandable how our colleagues, our lovely BAs and product owners and interaction designers can make this wrong assumption. But agile user stories are low-level packages of work with details for a designer or a developer on how to implement a solution. Whereas user needs should be a much higher level. If you do want to apply them to agile packages of work, and this is a good thing, this helps us embed our user needs into the work and hopefully scaling that in an organization when you apply it at a strategic level, because you shouldn't be mapping them one-to-one to user stories. At the lowest level they could be is an epic, which is the parent of a user story. Perhaps the parent categories above that would be even better, like initiatives or strategy. They're also not business requirements or something on the stakeholder wish list, which I'm sure we've all heard. This type of information is useful, just needs to be captured somewhere else. And researchers will often capture many of their findings, their work uncovers within a set of user needs. You know, you're rushing to get stuff out, you end up sort of dumping them into a user need. But often that's an inappropriate place to put that information. And additionally, they can be badly structured or capture the information ineffectively. So let's have a look at a bad need. This is something I've lifted from the Future Learn course. This isn't actually that bad, but as a parent of a child in their last year of primary school, I need to complete the admissions form so that my child has a place at secondary school. Actually doesn't look too bad at first glance, probably similar to some of the news, I've created, you may have created. How could that be improved? I need to find out everything I must do to apply for a secondary school for my child so we're able to secure a place for them. You could argue, you could go, make this better again, probably, but the main difference here is nuanced. That's just what I'm trying to get at, is it doesn't suggest a process in this need. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's explore the issues and how they could be improved. Right, issue one, Everybody still with me? I know you can't do reactions in this version of Zoom, so I'm hoping you're all waving and very excited. Haven't fallen asleep. Um, so yeah, and don't forget to keep asking questions as things pop up. Stick it in the Q&A, and then we've got something to chat about afterwards. So yeah, issue one, a general requirement rather than specific user need. This covers things like the service should be usable or accessible, or the staff should be properly trained. In this area, you can also have business requirements or technical specifications or client or stakeholder demands masquerading as a need. For example, as a presentation attendee, that's you lot out there, I need to be able to see the presentations so that I can follow along with what's being said. How do we improve that user need? Well, perhaps capture them in a prioritized log of general user requirements or principles for that project. If they are a business requirement or a technical specification or a client or stakeholder demands, well, great, that's good, but just record them elsewhere. It's not a user need. Issue two, quite common, this one. This is where a user need describes a problem rather than a higher level need that relates to that issue. As a presenter, I need the cafe next door to turn down their music so my audience can hear what I'm saying. What do we do about that? Well, when you sort of go through the problems, a lot of the answers sort of present themselves. It sort of becomes obvious, really. Capture the issues in a prioritized log of pain points, not as needs. Issue three. Okay. A need may reference a current process or technology. However, technologies and processes can change, and often the need is just expressing a pain point related to that tech or process. As a presenter, I need a parallel connector and cable so that I can connect to the high-tech green screen video. This may have been a need at one point, but obviously we've moved past that, and this need now becomes out of date. What do we do to fix that? Well, identify the underlying need, agnostic to the current process or technologies, and where an issue has been identified, capture that in a log of pain points instead. So you're just sort of pulling these things out and keeping a user need sort of sacrosanct, sticking the information in the right buckets. Overly verbose. From the desire to get sufficient information captured, needs can sometimes have an overly long description. This is quite common as well. But that makes it harder for them to be understood by people, and they may contain multiple points or needs within one description. As a presentation attendee, I need to learn new things, find out about certain techniques, and be entertained so that I can continue my learning journey and share it with all my followers on Instagram. What do we do about that? Well, kind of obvious when you think about it. Refine verbose needs so they are concise, but still make sense. Remember, a need is just a summary statement. It's just one sentence. You can't get everything in there and make it make sense. So what do we do in that situation? Well, write the best you can, make it concise but meaningful, and then additional details should be provided to support the need and give it context. And I'm going to mention some more on that later. Right, issue 5. You still with me, hopefully? Okay, I know it's a Monday night. So a user need may focus too much on low-level detail. A narrow view might mean the key need, which should be articulated at a high level, has been missed. As a presenter, I need to be able to advance slides using the Enter key so that I can move through the presentation in my own way. Just too specific. What do we do about that? User needs should generally be abstracted from low-level detail. As I mentioned before, they should capture the essence or root cause behind a need. Right, issue 6, now into the second half. Hopefully you're still with me. An unclear or vague description, where it isn't clear to what the need refers, and this could mean that it be interpreted in different ways. As a presenter, I need to be able to present so that I can do it. What do we do about that? Well, refine the user need until it's clear to what it refers. Provide supporting details to add clarity and context, as I mentioned before, and I shall cover this a bit later. Multiple user types on one need. This you do see quite often as well, and it may not be a problem. However, having multiple user types mentioned on a set of needs can indicate an issue with how you segmented your user base. If all or most user types have the same need, then has the audience been meaningfully segmented? As a presenter, presentation attendee, event organizer, venue owner, I need a clear agenda for the session so that I can plan my time accordingly. This may be true for all of those users, or it might be that it's more specific to perhaps the event organizer, lovely sweater, or maybe it's they all have those needs, but there's nuance in it. Have a look, see if it makes sense. Review your needs, you see user segmentation, and there will be needs that are common to all user types. However, there should also be needs that apply only to certain user types and therefore support the way you segmented your user base. And then your personas or your mindsets or however you've done your segmentation carry more weight because the needs are separate. Right, issue 8. We're getting along good. Missing so that statement. Again, surprisingly common, but without a so that statement, it may be unclear why the user has the need. As a presentation attendee, I need to know where the event is. Well, it's online. But, that sort of has enough in there, but there's always a reason why a user has a need. And the so that statement should explain this. Whether they're not always that easy to articulate. And sometimes there are multiple so that's associated with a need. If that's the case, then perhaps you could use the most important so that and then provide the other stuff in your supporting information. Right, last 2. No links to sources. Without a link to documentation which shows where the need was identified, there's no evidence trail, and the accuracy of the need could be doubted, which also makes it harder for others to find related information. As a presenter, I need an adoring audience. That's all you out there, so I can feel the love. And you can see, look, there's a source there, the Discovery Research Summary, which proves that I am very needy. What do we do about that? Obvious, like all user research artifacts, user needs should provide detail on their provenance. This will give weight to the veracity of the insight and also enable others to more easily locate relevant research documentation to find out more. Right, last one. Hopefully you've made it to the end. No supporting information or context. And this is what I've referred to earlier on. So kind of gets to the problem of it being a single sentence. And a single sentence is rarely enough to explain a need. Someone looking at that single need, is likely to require supporting information and details and context about the need. Remember where this came from. An agile user story will have a title, which is just like a user need. But an agile user story, if it's done properly, will also have a description, acceptance criteria, definition of done, links to documentations and diagrams, a parent epic, links to related stories, comments from colleagues. And all this rich supporting information helps us understand the agile user story. And the designer or the developer picking that up can kind of understand what they're supposed to do with it better. We give somebody just a user need on its own or a list of them. They go, well, what do I do with this? I don't understand it. So a user need also requires supporting information, and collating it will provide detail, clarity, and context around the need. Also, you could plot your needs against a user journey map, either an as-is or a to-be or both. And plotting against specific stages in the journey will provide that context to those needs. Okay, I can see this is happening then, and this is the need here, and now I understand why they have that need because they've got that context. And you'll be working with your service designers and interaction designers, and everybody's working together, and it's a beautiful, loving experience, hopefully. So what else could you do? Well, create user insight themes. Consider combining research outputs into these themes, and they could help explain insights more broadly. They could combine your general user requirements, your user needs, which perhaps are relative priority of the needs, pain points, insights, observations, personas, or whatever your segmentation is that relates to that insight, quotes, links to related documentation. Putting things in a theme will help people understand it in the round and hopefully be more kind of easy to understand and hopefully a bit more actionable. So we've gone through the 10 issues, and of those there are 8 which I can put into a bingo card, which makes sense. And those are my thoughts. They're just my thoughts. You may disagree with me, it's fine. We're all making this up to a certain extent. So hopefully you've got access to that bingo card now and you're all ready with your little marker to cross them off. Yeah. So I'm going to give you 8 bad needs, as you can see on the card, but they're going to be hidden amongst some good ones. So you need to cross off the bad ones as you hear them. Yeah, just like bingo. Everyone with me? Simple?
Yeah.
Good. So this is what AI thinks I look like, apparently. Did I hear a voice jumping there? Did somebody want to say something?
Oh, it was just me cheering you on.
Oh,
Excited.
lovely. Thank you. Yes. You don't have reactions. So online you can get the reactions. I can encourage you to send me heart emojis. Anyway, so let's play Bad User Needs Bingo. Right. This is an easy one. Let's start you off easy. As a scrapyard manager, I need to be certified as a scrap metal dealer. Is that good? Is that bad? What do you think? Right, next one. As an arable farmer, I need regular updates on my DEFRA applications so that I can plan my planting schedule. Is that a good need? Is that a bad need? What do you think? As a guitarist in a live band, I need the PA not to regularly cause feedback so that I can play the songs as intended. Is that a good need? Is that a bad need? What do you think? Okay. As a traffic warden, I need to know the specific parking restrictions on a road so I can enforce the parking regulations if required. Is that a good need? Is that a bad need? What do you think? Um, as an ice cream van driver, I need to know where I'm allowed to play my jingles so that I can encourage customers to buy my ice cream. Actually, as an aside, I did apply once to become an ice cream van driver and I was turned down. They said I was not the sort of person they were looking for. I was vegan at the time as well, so I wouldn't have eaten the ice creams. Hey-ho. As a call center advisor, I need our computer systems to be able to be usable so that I can carry out my work effectively. Is that good? Is that bad? What do you think? As an on-call GP, I need the online booking system to have the data so my appointments are right. Good? Bad? What do you think? As an impulsive shoe buyer, I need the shoe website to show me relevant recommendations so that I can quickly make a purchase. Is that good? Is that bad? As a court clerk, usher, legal advisor, or listing officer, I need access to the daily court hearings so that I can carry out my tasks. Good? Bad? What do you think? Right. As a sales representative for a pharmaceutical company, I need lots of data and graphs and information that I can share with my healthcare professionals so that I can convince them that the drug we're selling is better, more efficacious, and has less side effects than our competitors in the same market vertical. Is that good or bad? As an accountant for multiple limited companies, I need access to their corporation tax data so I can manage their tax affairs correctly. Check. Right. As a BBC online journalist, I need to be able to add information about chickens so that this information is included. Is that good? Is that bad? Is it on the bingo card? What do you think? As an HGV driver crossing borders, I need the HFNS system to connect to the YMKJ database so they have the correct data to present to officials. Is that a good need? Is that a bad need? Has anyone got a bingo yet? Because you should have, because that's a bingo. Right. Now, I'm guessing you probably
We
struggled a bit
have a
there. It's not
bingo.
that obvious. Sorry, what are you saying?
We have a bingo. I think
Oh,
it's
well done. Well done. That's the first time I've heard that because it's actually quite hard to spot good and bad. It's quite hard to write them as well, I have to say. So it is very subjective. So, but you're going to want to know what the answers are, aren't you? I can see you're all thinking. So here are the answers, and you may disagree with them. That's fine. So this one, obvious, missing a so that statement. This one is a good need. And every good need you look at and you go, well, that could be better. This is a pain point, the feedback. It's not a need. Then there's probably a need in there somewhere. This is also a good need. You need to know where you can give out tickets, and you need to know where you can play your jingles to flog your ice cream. That's a good need too. This one's not. This is a general requirement, not a specific user need, and you can see the word usable there sort of ringing out. You go, actually, that's a requirement. Too ambiguous. What do I do with that need? Too vague for me to really understand. This is a good need in this imaginary set of user needs. There is a cohort of users called the impulsive shoe buyer, and for them, maybe when they're listening to a really boring presentation about user needs, they might be scrolling on the phone and buying like nice shoes. Multiple users on one need. Overly verbose. That one was nice and obvious. This is a good need. You do need to have access to the corporation tax information if you're going to be an accountant and manage it. Too specific. Why are you talking about chickens? This was difficult to write, that one. And the last one, obvious references to tech and process. So that's all of them. I'm now coming to the end. Just to let you know, my contract has at DEFRA finished today. So I am now available. So if any of you out there want some of this good user research juice, then please get in touch. I should have pressed that button before. Now available. Right, over to questions or observations. And I'll stop sharing so I can actually, so I can think actually can see. Yeah, so I can see you all. I'll stop sharing. Find the button. There we go. Right,
Thank
how
you.
was that?
That was very great. Just what we needed for a Monday evening. And that bingo was I was trying to not be too competitive and jump in my seat, but also very tricky. Well done, Tiska, from Askable for meeting the bingo first. We have two questions already, so I'll ask them first and see how we go. So first question from Praveen, is it easier to get people's needs right in problem space research than in solution space? I'm not sure I understand that. Do you understand the question?
Oh, yeah, I don't. Yeah, Praveen, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Perhaps
Let
if
me,
you can go or
can
come off the
he
mic, or whether
speak?
you can type more detail. What do you mean by problem space or solution space?
Kate, do you think the audience can speak, or maybe Praveen can type some more?
Yeah, you can maybe type a response to expand on that.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you,
there is a,
I was
yeah.
just gonna say, if you did want to speak, Praveen, if you just raise your hand, I can add you, or if you want to prefer to type, feel free to do that.
Should
While we're waiting for
I'll just
Praveen to
allow
decide.
Praveen to speak. There we go, Praveen. You
Oh,
should.
perfect.
Am I audible? Hi, Patrick.
Yes, I can hear you.
Patrick, what I wanted to understand is by problem space research, I meant things more on before introducing the solution into picture. Probably when you're exploring, it's more of an explorative side of research or discovery or generative research or ethnographic research that you tend to do to identify problems and opportunities before actually bringing any solution or organizational lens into picture. Is it easier to nail down needs in that kind of work compared to solution space research such as usability testing?
Okay, I get what you're saying there. So, in an ideal world, we would have done some discovery. That doesn't always happen, as we know. And in the discovery, that's usually where you're getting your user needs. And the user needs, ideally, are agnostic to a solution, and they are usually fairly long lasting. So, normally you would have covered them then. But if you are in this unlucky situation where you're only given the remit perhaps to do some usability testing, or a survey or something like that, then you will uncover some needs, but it'll be a little bit harder. Maybe in the interview section of that usability test, if it's moderated, or in, the questions you might put in a unmoderated session, and you're try to sort of reconstruct it that way. So you can get user needs from that, and certainly if you're in discovery and then you move into alpha and beta, you should be hearing more from your customers, and you should be refining your user needs, maybe adding one or two to the mix, refining ones you had before, changing them, dropping ones that you go, actually, we got that kind of wrong. So you can uncover them. But in both instances, because you're thinking about needs at a higher level, you're not thinking about solutions. So actually the application is sort of irrelevant in that respect. The stuff I think you might be referring to is picking up kind of usability issues, pain points, and fixes for the build, or it might be problems with the proposition, and maybe some more around the business or technical side of it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, just a little more on that particular point. In a solution-based research, as the example that you've taken in usability testing, it's very easy to identify usability issues or pain points. And a lot of times we do the mistake of using the pain points as the steps to uncovering user needs. Or sometimes a lot of people pass on the pain points as user needs. How do we avoid those mistakes, and how can we do better in terms of differentiating pain points from user needs?
I mean, the use of language in itself should when you sit down and think about it, you look at it and go, oh, actually, kind of now I'm thinking about it. And, so nobody should beat themselves up about it because you're rushing to get things down. You've got it down, which is great. But if you do get a chance to pause before you have to hand over a document to a client, you might just sit, with either on your own or with a peer or with somebody in your team and look at them and go, okay, can we tidy these up? Can we make them a little bit better? Can we pull out the pain point that we've captured there as a separate pain point, and then identify within that, usually it's referring to some actual higher level need. So it's just a bit of that refining process, which often we don't have a time for, which is why we end up with these kind of slightly like mangled needs.
Got it. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you both. Thank you, Praveen, for clarifying your question, and thanks, Patrick. That was really clear. I'm going to move on to Paul's question. This is a really interesting one. How do you go about prioritizing which needs to address with your team if you find a considerable volume of needs, for example, during
Yeah.
discovery?
Well, this is where, so the two things really on that. One, hopefully, if you've gone through this exercise, you'll have a much smaller set of needs. Now, I found that actually, if I was going to be going on, say, just a tactical project, building a service or something, I'm hoping that my set of user needs will be much smaller because they will be higher level and longer lasting, and they will capture perhaps more things than we would put in needs. Often the needs are just too specific, so you end up with just loads of them. So hopefully you can pull out what is a general requirement, what's a pain point, what's a technical requirement. So your list is smaller, so that makes it easier. And then it's just a bit of our guessing. Because a lot of what we do is it's a, we're kind of going, oh, I think it's about that. That's good enough information. Let's carry on. We're not scientists. We're getting enough information to make a decision, a business or a design decision, to move on, iterate, and then find out some more. So I would just have a best guess with the prioritization with as many people who are relevant to the project, who've perhaps seen the research, and discuss it together and work out what you think are the most important things. And then don't be too sort of wedded to it. Be willing to change your mind, you know.
Yeah, I guess the needs and the pain points kind of go hand in hand, right? Like
Yes.
if this need is not met, like how big of an issue is this going to be? And I
Yeah,
guess you
exactly.
probably can
You're,
work
you're
with,
likely to have like one need there with several pain points sitting under it, which are
yeah,
related, as well
exactly.
as general requirements and technical requirements and whatnot, and business requirements.
When you were visualizing it, I was actually tempted to ask my question too. Sorry, I'm cheeky. I've asked a question to everyone. I will try and weave my question into Thiba's question. You mentioned actually yourself about insight themes, and you touched on personas. My question is about like how do you choose user needs versus like an overarching artifact like a persona? And Thiba's question is more about how do you handle the evolution of user needs as a project progresses, and new information becomes available?
Okay. Well, to answer Theba's question, basically, I sort of touched on it before when I was answering Praveen's question, which was hopefully you've done a discovery and you've got a bunch of needs. And then if you move into the other phases, you'll find out more, which will either challenge, refine, or add to your basic user needs. If you haven't had that phase to begin with, then you're starting from scratch and you'll find out things as you go along. But yeah, you don't want them sitting on the shelf getting dusty after you've done that initial investigative research. When you're starting to do evaluative research, you don't want your personas to be sitting on the shelf and your other artifacts. So yeah, so talking about personas, I mean, there's a different purpose to them really. How you're segmenting your user base will help people make decisions at certain points according to that segmentation. And there'll be some instances where you can't meaningfully segment your audience, or you have to do it at a high level. So on a project I had a user base of 70 million people, I used mindsets instead, and it was what's their mindset around certain patterns of behavior and interactions, and that was more useful, but it was much higher level. But you could still have ascribed certain pain points and certain user needs to those segmentations, and in doing so, you'll give more credence to that segmentation, because if you're able to go, right, these user needs go on this segment, this user needs go on this segment, you'll go, oh, this starts to feel real. I feel like this isn't just made up. Whereas if you're sort of having to fit it together, then you're going, oh, actually, maybe the segmentation's right. And it's quite hard to get segmentation right. And what happens is we end up with personas that are pretty useless. They end up like looking like marketing personas. And if they're like that, then they definitely won't get used, apart from perhaps from marketing departments.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned mindsets because you can clearly group like certain user needs into, so for instance, if I work for Just Eat, into like ordering behaviors or moods, and that would make sense. I will not talk about my users right now, but that's really
That's
cool.
another whole presentation about user segmentation, which I at some point
Yeah.
will write.
It is really interesting. I wanted to touch on one more thing. You mentioned epics and user stories. I don't know how many of our audiences will understand development lingo or developers lingo. I understand epics, but I was just wondering, are these user needs ever going to be used by people beyond user researchers, or how have
Hopefully, yeah,
you used how have you
absolutely. I mean, our job, which often we're really bad at,
Mm,
is taking what we found out the next step. So we'll find out some stuff. We'll do a playback. We'll create a report. We'll share it with people, and we go, "Oh, that's great! But we really love that." Right, I'm off to do some more research. Bye, everyone. And then they
yeah.
hope they're going to do something with it. Well, they don't always, and they're often not sure, not because they're necessarily not willing, but they don't know what to do. So my task for all of you, when you're doing your presentation next, is to go that step further and go, right, I've done the playback. Now we're going to have a so what that session. So we have a so what session. Everybody gets together. You walk them through the key findings and insights from that piece of research and go, what do we care about? What is important from that? Okay, well, this and this and this and this are important. How important are they? Okay. What we can do about it? Oh, you as a designer, you're going to do that. You're a BA, you're going to do that. When are you going to do that? And so you've got a list of tasks and actions, and they go, oh, right, now these insights are now embedded in my work. But the key is to work with each of the different disciplines and find out their process and how you support them. So if you posit what we do as I'm here to support you in your work, to provide evidence to help you make decisions, both business and design decisions, they'll tell you this is our process, and actually this is where you could help us. And then that leads to what your outputs are. So yes, my task to all of you, my wish to all of you is to go away and just do the so what sessions after your research playbacks.
I love that. And actually, that's a good way to also connect it back to Navdeep's talk, where you remember that slide about BAs versus user researchers and how BAs collect user requirements. It'll be really cool to connect Patrick's like user needs, good quality user needs, and go back to BAs and PMs and be like, here you go.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing with my strategic work, and they've got a bunch of like business requirements, and I've got some user insights, and some of them support what they're saying, some of them don't, some of them are new, and you then got stuff for them to help them make a decision, and they might still proceed against what the user need is, but at least you've helped them. That's our job really, to provide stuff that is easy to understand, useful, and actionable. And if we haven't done that, then we've not really done our job.